All right. So one of my secret joys is I get to write down things you've said that would make a good title. So I'll read them back to you and let me know which one is your favorite.
Okay.
A bit of a weird genre. A quiet mystery. My very queer book. It's kind of my baby. A side plot of family and found family. Permission to fail, or just send me a DM.
A bit of a weird genre, because that's like all of my books.
Awesome. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 40, A Bit of a Weird Genre. This is Written on the Edge. I'm Vance Bastion, and I'm really glad you're here with me. My guest today is Rue Sparks. Rue is a widow, disabled, and a member of the queer community. Rue traverses the equally harsh and cathartic landscape, where trauma and healing align to create stories that burrow into the hearts and minds of their readers. In addition to The Stars Will Guide Us Back, Sparks has authored the novella Daylight Chasers, writes the web serial The Dragon Warden, and will be releasing the contemporary mystery novel The Fable of Wren later this month. They live in Noblesville, Indiana, in the USA, with their sweet senior support dog, and still draw and paint when they're physically able. Rue, welcome to the show. So where did the spark to become a creative person come from?
So it came from a little bit of a darker place in my life. I started developing some chronic pain, and it got to the point where I really couldn't use my hands. So like illustration, graphic design, which was not only just the work that I did, but the way I expressed myself was kind of unavailable to me. So I kind of racked my brain trying to figure out, like how can I express myself when like I would spend nights just pacing my room because I couldn't, I was in so much pain I couldn't sleep. So I thought of when my wife was alive. She passed away 5 years ago, and she was a writer. So she would do like NaNoWriMo every year. She didn't really publish anything, but like it was like her passion. And I would edit for her, and through osmosis, like I learned a lot about writing from her. So I thought, well, I could try it. And I honestly did not believe that I could really make anything of it. So I started with poetry.
Okay.
And then that led to short stories. And I was like, there's no way I can write a short story. But then it just like kind of snowballed from there. And then I'm writing novellas and novels. And so now it's been like 4 or 5 years that I'm publishing books. So
that's pretty fantastic. You have oh, go ahead.
It's just like, it's been a great way to express like a lot of things that I've gone through, especially like with the chronic pain and with the grief over my wife, like just having some outlet basically, even when I was like in my worst pain. So.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a new novel coming out, The Fable of Wren, which is what we're here to talk about.
Yes.
October 26th.
Yep.
What can you tell me about it?
So it's a bit of a weird genre. I feel like that's like the addendum I have to give for all of my books, because I don't like to stick to one genre. Mm-hmm. So I say mystery, but it's not a cozy, it's not a thriller. It's like a quiet mystery, which seems a little like oxymoronic.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it's got magical realism in it, and it's more like not literary. It's still like genre fiction, but it talks a lot about like a traumatic loss and what that means for the person who has experienced it and now has to face the world with having lost like everything, you know, and having to reconnect to a world that they don't recognize anymore. On the backs of a mystery where they're trying to solve like what happened to this person who is also someone I care about, but the relationship was newer, so they lost a familial relationship, but also a new relationship. So it's a lot about loss and grief and that
Is
kind of thing.
the crime at the core a missing person? Is it a murder?
It's serious death. I hesitate to say murder because it's kind of a mystery. It wasn't a murder. Was it?
No spoilers. No
accidental?
spoilers.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about your main character.
My main character is non-binary. Their name is Wren.
Perfect.
And they're kind of like an old man in a teenager, like young adult body. They're like really ornery but they're also kind of a badass. Like they don't take crap from anybody, but they also just don't connect to other people very easily. They kind of have their people who they trust and believe in, and they don't want to deal with anyone else. And part of that is because that's the way they were raised, where like they don't trust outsiders. And that is kind of pushed a little bit when an outsider, of course, Jethro, which is kind of the second main character, comes in and tries to help them solve the mystery. And he's an outsider, and he's like a complete cinnamon roll, like just wants to help, but he's also going through a lot because his grandparent is going through some health issues. So it's like he's got his own things going on, but he just wants to help everybody, and he's just like the sweetest guy. But Wren is like just this, it's like that grumpy old person and sweet other person dynamic. So
that's very endearing.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Without asking any more spoilery questions, what else would you like to share about it? What do you want people to know?
There is a magical realism element. So, and this isn't a huge spoiler because it happens like in the second chapter. Wren's uncle, who is the person who's close to them, who passes away, appears to them in their dreams throughout the novel. And it's kind of a little bit of foreshadowing, but kind of also a little bit of guidance for Wren throughout the novel as like his way of continuing to be that familial father figure to them.
Okay.
So it's like a continuing of a relationship, but also it becomes difficult for them because that relationship has changed. So.
Okay. Now, do they have magic powers? Is it more supernatural?
No, it's pretty just normal contemporary. The magical realism is just like the fact that there's like ghosts involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Is that a common thread through most of your books?
Not ghosts per se, but some sort of magical realism or sci-fi element. Yeah.
Okay.
My first book, which was a novella, Daylight Chasers. It was kind of sci-fi speculative, where it was like a contemporary setting, but there was the concept of whenever someone said the words, "I wish this day would never end," they were contacted by a company called Daylight Chasers, like on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just ring you up, no warning.
That's not creepy.
Yeah, not at all. You wouldn't, no one knows this. And they would offer you that opportunity of hopping time zones to add hours to your day to have a day that nearly never ends. And it's like a live travel blogging thing where they do like fun activities that are like a little out there, like swimming with sharks without a cage and riding bison over the plains, and
Wow.
passenger pigeons, which are technically extinct, and things like that. So yeah. But the that particular one, that particular series of events, it goes wrong, of course. Of course it goes wrong.
Of course.
So it's about...
Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't
yeah.
it?
So it actually becomes about, it's from the perspective of the person who runs the Keenan. It's from his perspective. He's the one who actually runs the activities rather than the person who is, who said...
Who's wishing.
Yeah. And it's him understanding, well, why did she say that when she clearly doesn't want this day to never end? Like, something is wrong here. So it's trying to understand, like, what's going on with this woman, Isabella, that made her want this, but also not. So it's a little bit of a mystery, but it's a little short. I kind of wish I'd have gone a little bit longer with it, but I think it's really complex. Like, it's hard to explain it too much about it without spoiling it.
Sure.
So, but yeah.
Well, Daylight Chasers still exists and people will continue wishing. You could always write the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Okay, so The Stars Will Guide Us Back then. Also sci-fi or more?
So that one is a series of short stories. So that one goes a little bit all over the spectrum. So there's some that are magical realism, some that are sci-fi, some that are there's like an urban fantasy one. The overarching theme is, I like to say that there's a poem at the beginning that kind of includes the phrase, "The stars will guide us back." And it's the idea of stars being like the things that hold us together. And it's either the absence of that thing or what that thing is. And it's different for each person.
Okay. I was about to ask if you meant hold us together personally or as a society, but I got it now.
Personally, yeah. So it could be like a person that holds you together when you're feeling like you're at your edge. It could be a group of people. It could be a feeling. In one of the stories, it's a dog.
Aww.
So, yeah, and it's kind of the stars is like hope kind of thing. So they're all very disparate stories, but they all kind of have that overarching feeling of like, they're not all hopeful. Some of them is like the absence of it.
Okay. But
the idea of like, there's something either missing that they need or something that they have that is holding them together.
Got it.
So it's one of those things that once you read all the stories, they kind of make sense together,
sure.
But it's a little hard to like pinpoint what it is that brings them all together. So,
well, I mean, it sounds like the theme that brings them together is an emotion, which is always hard to pinpoint because everybody approaches their emotions differently.
Yeah. And I will say there are quite not like severe content warnings for that, but I try to include on the first page as well as in my descriptions of any content warnings. That's something personally that I'm very careful about because I have my own trigger warnings that I have to watch out for. Mm-hmm. So like there's a content warning page on all my books. The Stars Will Guide Us Back has content warnings on all the descriptions on Amazon listings and stuff like that. So be aware of that. But yeah.
Very nice. And then the final one that piqued my interest because they are a creature near and dear to my heart, the Dragon Wardens.
Yes.
Your web serial.
Yes. So that one, it was put on hold for a little bit because I released The Stars Will Guide Us Back in June, and then I popped right onto the Fable of Wren. But this next year, I'm going to be just writing and just releasing the Dragon Warden. The Dragon Warden was a web serial. So I was trying to release it every 2 weeks, and that just didn't happen when I was releasing 2 books.
Mm-hmm. You think?
I know. I kind of overcommitted there. And I didn't want to just like not do my due diligence with it, because it's really kind of my very queer book. Like it's just so LGBTQ that it's like ridiculous. They're all genderqueer basically.
Awesome.
Except for the bad guy. Yeah, I didn't want to just like rush through it. But it's a really cross genre. There's steampunk, sci-fi, fantasy, like it just touches on everything. The heart of it is the main character, who is Achilles, and there's a story behind the name. It is a reference to the Greek mythology, because it is also a sci-fi. So there's a story that you find out pretty quickly in the book about that. Achilles, who is genderqueer, they're a dragon trainer, and they are from the city of Erie, and because they're just so good at their job, they go to the major city of Avalon. But after about 10 years, they kind of come back to Erie, kind of defeated, and decide to, because of what they saw in that city, start stealing dragons from Avalon, start like kidnapping them from this place that they're like doing experiments, and take them to the free city of Erie, where it's like illegal to like own dragons. So it's a lot inspired by like poaching and illegal animal trafficking and things like that. So
wow.
Yeah.
So what are we training the dragons to do? And it sounds like they're not sentient dragons. They're slightly more bestial.
Spoilers.
Okay, sorry.
There are two types. So there's drakes, which do not have wings, and they're more animal, like and then there's the dragons who have wings, and they are a little more sentient, that as far as we know, where like they're a little more intelligent, they are capable more, they're bigger for the most part, and then they have wings. But dragons and drakes in this story, they're used for two reasons. For dragons, they want to use for military. Drakes and dragons, to a certain extent, it ties into kind of a parallel to the oil industry, and Avalon. It's the Avalon industry, which is what the city was based off of. It's kind of like a rock that's similar to like oil, where it can be used as like a fossil fuel.
Okay.
But it's actually fossilized dragon.
Of course it is.
Bones and things like that. But the only way that you can use it is through drake fire. Like that's the only way to get it to the right temperature.
Got it.
So they use drakes and dragons to actually get it to the right temperature to actually use it.
Okay. And Achilles,
so it's like,
go ahead, finish.
So Achilles would like train the drakes not only for that, but for like transportation or like anything they needed. Like that's what Achilles would do, and they were the best at it. But they become completely jaded about the whole thing. And there's also
and so then I'm assuming they put together the Band of Liberation agents who are actually the core of the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So,
and there's like a bit of a love triangle, not love triangle, like a love-hate between them and their ex-hider, who is the one who is experimenting on the dragons. And then there's Patroclus, who is a childhood friend, who they both did their names on the same day. So you can infer the relationship there.
Yeah.
So
I know my history. I know my mythology anyway.
Yeah. So it's a little, there's some romance going on in there somewhere, but.
And the one doing the experiment you said was Hyder?
Hyder, yeah.
All right. And that's the bad guy, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I got it. Very fun.
Yeah.
Any other works you want to share with the world?
I do have a work in progress that I have scheduled to publish in 2023, March-ish. And the only reason I know that is because my editor is booked out like a year. Ooh. So I was like, okay, I'm booking you for that time period, but so I better get that done by then. It's about like 20% done, but it's called Origami Bones.
Nice title.
Yeah. It's kind of my baby. Right now between that and Dragon Warden. Dragon Warden is kind of like a consistently publishing, versus Origami Bones is something that's like just carefully crafted, slowly coming to life thing. Mm-hmm. The gist of it is there's the main character, Yua, works at a assisted living facility, and they come across this older woman, Ada, who she eventually finds out is the embodiment of Mother Earth.
Oh, nice.
And she needs to basically, through this whole, it's a lot more complex than this, of course. I don't want to get into too many details, but she needs to convince her that humanity is worth saving, that humanity is worth not giving up on. So
you did not choose a light topic on that one.
No. No, it goes a lot into environmentalism, but also like and like humanity, just like what are we doing with ourselves? But there's also a side plot of family and found family, and of course I touch on grief, because that is something that I'm continually going through a journey on that. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge to make it light enough to appeal to a decent amount of people. But I think the character of Ada is going to be very wise, but also very jaded. So it's going to be a challenge to write her.
I cannot wait to see it come out into the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. So up next for you, October 26th, people should look for the Fable of Wren. Yes. They can pre-order that on your site, right?
Yes. So you can pre-order an autographed version with 2 art prints on my site if you want to get like a physical version with like signed with. I have 2 original pieces of artwork that you can get like a 4x6. Otherwise, you can pre-order ebook on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kobo, all of that. And then the physical book, that will be coming out on either that same day or the week after, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all that too. So, yeah.
All right. And that is RueSparks.com.
Yes.
Perfect. Yep. I love that you're including artwork with that. That's an amazing offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is Twitter the best social for people to follow you?
Yes, it's at @Sparks_writes.
Perfect.
I do have an Instagram, but I don't update it as often. I have to make images, and that's so hard.
Well, and time consuming. So
yeah, I love my Twitter though. So if you're ever on there, just send me a DM. I'm totally I just am on there a ridiculous amount. So
cool. And and you're finding that it's a positive place.
The writing community is fantastic. I mean, there's like any community, you're going to have some drama, of course. But I don't think I would have even published if it wasn't for the writing community. They're the one. Yeah. And they've been so supportive, and they've shared so much knowledge with me. And I've been happy to give back to, like, I help people with book covers and formatting and things like that as much as I can. But people have just been like, I'm part of DM groups where we literally are just like giving away information and help and betaing and editing and all of that. So yeah, it's great.
I love hearing about the cool corners of the internet. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any final words of wisdom you want to share with folks?
Just try things you don't think you can do. Like, the worst that can happen is that it doesn't work out. Like, that's the worst thing to happen, but you're not going to know until you try it. So
that is so very true. All right, folks, this was Written on the Edge. The Rope Podcast is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, or our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.ropepodcast.com. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Rue Sparks for being with us here today. Thank you, Rue, so much.
You're welcome. It was great to be here.
I'm glad we got through the tech issues so you could be here. Now, head over to RueSparks.com, pre-order your copy of the Fable of Wren, and be ready for your artwork and an amazing story. And we'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.